Hello, today we are here to discuss Wild Tiled West. This was one of the first, I think it was actually the first purchase I made at Gen Con this year. So it wasn't intentionally my first purchase, but it was the one I was able to get to first. I got kind of muddled after Last Light failed miserably, and I got kind of turned around.
Like most people.
I staggered around like, where am I going? Where am I going? And I'm like, okay, Wild Tiled West, where is that at? And I searched everywhere. I was like, I passed by the booth, I don't know how many times, and then there's a giant banner right above my head. If I just looked up, I would have seen it. So before we get into any more of my stupidity from Gen Con, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can follow along as we talk about all these Gen Con releases, which there are going to be a lot coming to the channel. Not to mention the Origins ones that we kind of had to cut short.
Yeah.
But, well, we got a few of them in before Gen Con Onslaught came.
Right.
So, Rob, what can you tell us about Wild Tiled West?
All right. So this is a 2023 release, or will be. It's still not available yet, but it's available for pre-order. I'll go on that in just a second. Overall rank is 9,846. It's rated as 7.6. Plays 1 to 5 people. I'd be interested in the solo mode on this. Plays anywhere between 45 and 90 minutes, ages 13 and up. Now, designed by Paul Dennen. You never heard that name? You've probably seen his games. Dune Imperium in particular, and Clank are two of his biggest ones. Art by Clay Brooks, Annika Burrell, Raul Ramos, and Nate Storm. And it's published by Direwolf. And so, MSRP, we have Miniature Market, Game Nerds, and Card House all have it pre-order at $65. But you can find used copies for $54 on Geek Market.
Okay. So, let's talk about the quality of components. So, what attracted you to this game after I bought it were these, basically they're not player boards, but these holders for all the tiles.
So I was sitting on a bed, and Randy was sitting on his bed, and you were cracking it open, and I immediately saw these boards, and I was like, wow, those are cool.
Yeah, so yeah, they hold all the pieces.
Yeah.
When you're done playing, they just go right back in, and you're set up for the next game. Now, if depending on player count, you may have to remove some of the tiles, but in general, it's set up for your next game already, which is really cool. And then you get, your player boards are actually just little pieces of like very thin cardstock. Not great.
But they're two-sided.
They are two-sided. One side is, everybody has the same scoring potential, although the names configurations are different. The names of the cities are different. The other side, everybody's got variable player powers. We've only played with the standard side. We haven't played with the variable player powers. And so we can't really tell you whether the powers are balanced well or not. But the other pieces, you get cards. They have no linen finish. They're just smooth finished, but they do have a good thickness to them. You get some standard D20 and D8 sided dice that are used for basically marking which rows or columns you can choose your tiles from.
You got some wooden bits.
Yeah.
You got a boot that helps mark your pastures if you score them. You got golden nuggets, which they look okay, and then some kind of. And then the bullets.
Yeah, they're bullets / tombstones. They kind of made them...
They look more like a tombstone than a bullet.
Yeah, they're wider than a bullet and narrower than a tombstone. So they kind of made them somewhere in the middle there.
And then the cardboard, it's not too impressive. You got cardboard foxes, which is the bandits, and then roads, I guess you would call it, right?
And then the medicine bottles, which are kind of just bonuses during the course of the game. You do get a little wooden... mine car, which is
you got a covered wagon for
covered wagon. I guess it would be not a mine car, but it looks I think it is a mine car because it shows
it's a mine car up there.
Yeah,
the wooden one. But I'm saying the first player marker is a covered wagon.
Yeah. So nothing super exciting about the individual components, but when you put it together and the fact that the storage mechanism is pretty cool, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7.
Yeah, I mean, these are fantastic, and so if everything else was even half as cool as that, I think it'd be like a 9. But this is the storage for this is just really nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So moving on to theme. So this is a Western Wednesday game, obviously.
Even though you can't tell.
Where I forgot to wear my vest and my hat for this, but it's definitely a Western theme.
Sure.
as far as it's a tile placement game, so it's only as Western as you can make a tile placement game. Although they do cover shootouts, they've got building your city, they've got the various buildings you typically would see within a Western town, with whether it be the general store or the sheriff's office.
The only reason why I wouldn't say it's layered on is because some of the mechanics of the game do kind of fit the game, so it's not layered on in that respect. So it's light for sure, but it's definitely got a Western theme to it.
And it does have the poker in the sense that you're collecting the cards, making sets with them. So it features all the different things you might see in a Western, better than some of the Westerns we did play during Western Wednesday.
So that's all the reason. Yeah, I agree. So that's why I wouldn't say it's layered on. So it's just very light.
And it's very cartoonish. The bandits are like foxes, and
the sheriff's bears.
Bear, and then you got the cows that are just
they look satisfied. I mean,
they're satisfied. they really enjoy grazing. I
think so. They look happy.
Yeah, well, they look like they're squinting, and maybe it's very sunny,
or they're stoned.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's a different kind of grass than we were thinking earlier. So I mean, it's got the streets that are wooden streets or dirt streets, I guess they are, but they depending on how you do it, it kind of looks like Miranda was trying to wallpaper an entire town with streets. So I thought her bonus had something to do with that at first, but sure enough it didn't. The fact that you're hunting down the bandits and you're shooting them and making them turn into the dead tombstones, I thought that was very cartoonish, very Looney Tunes-esque. So I enjoyed this. I think it's a very light, but it's a satisfying theme. I'll probably go ahead and give this a 7.5.
I agree. 7.5 is a good score.
All right, so moving on to the rule book. So the rule book is a very easy read. So it's a 16-page rule book. It doesn't really have a cover. It goes straight into the contents on the top of it. The setup, it's numbered and lettered very largely, almost bigger than the pictures of the boards. But as far as it's really no challenge at all to set it up. They've got what you need to do to take out the various player pieces based on player count, which dice you use based on player count, because everything, like I said, is already set up in your tile board.
Right.
So it's just choose your board, pour out your wooden bits, and then remove any tiles that are excess depending on player count, and you're ready to go. And it does have a QR code for, if you want to learn how to play from watching a video, you can scan that and it'll teach you how to play. But the read is pretty fun. It's got little cartoons in the, pictured art. It's, cute. Different various townspeople. I like the little Gia monster carpenter or whatever that is. Cool.
Yeah, the art in the book is fantastic.
Yeah. The little turtle with the
turtle.
Little glass. So it's a fun little book.
And one thing I didn't really notice, but the thing that'll help with setup too in the rule book is that when you empty out a tile, there's a picture of what belongs in that, which is important because you have a lot of tiles that are the same size and shape.
Yeah.
So that way you can't confuse where a 3-piece L-shaped tile will go. It's a specific spot on the board. So I like that.
And this definitely has a feeling of Planet Unknown, and including with the board, because it has the same frustration. There's one tile, I believe it was, where you had to invert it to get it to fit into the board correctly, and that drove me crazy. It's smooth side up on all the tiles except one that had to be flipped over. The rule book does a fine job. There were no real questions. The only questions we had were in the buildings, the ones that are named buildings, and every one of them is pictured in the back and tells you exactly what it does. So there's no need to worry about going online.
And you do have a little bit of a cheat sheet.
It's mostly about scoring during the game and scoring at the end of the game.
But it was rather unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have it, but the game is so... I mean, I think it's just so self-evident on how to play it and what they do. It's that it's nice, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go and give the rule book, I think, an 8.5. I think it does a good job.
I think it's a solid score.
All right.
I didn't go to sleep when he was reading about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
but you didn't really read it.
Well, I read it before when we played it before with you, without you.
Right.
So moving on to gameplay. So, you start out, like I said, all the tiles are in the board. You've got your player board is completely empty. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have an X that marks the starting space that you have to play your first tile on. Now, you can choose to orient the tile when you draft it however you want. But you have to place at least one square on that X. Now, you've got a number of dice, some of which are going to be the 20-siders, which represent the ones coming from the land, and they made them green to match the land, and then some that are going to be blue that match the water. And you're going to roll that number of those dice, and that's going to be the different rows and columns that you can choose from. So with a 3-player game, you have 2 blue and 2 green dice. You roll them. And in this case, there's a 16, so the 16...
Go up here.
Yep, that never even came up the entire
Never
game.
did.
The 14 would go over here. Then you have a blue 7 and a blue 5. And they're going to mark, opposite each other. That's nice. Oh, so now you're going to, as first player, you get to have first pick at one of those rows or columns. Now, if you're going from a grassy one, you have to take the very first tile that is available. So this one's empty, so I couldn't take that one, but I would go to the next one that's available here. And I have, in this case, if it's got a gold border, it costs a certain amount of gold. That one costs 1. So I could take that tile and play it onto my board.
Assuming he has the gold to pay for it.
If I have the gold to pay for it. And this one will give me 3 cows in a pasture and then a bandit, which bandits are bad. So I'm going to then have to connect it to one of the tiles that's already in my board, unless it's the first tile, which is, like as we mentioned, would go on the X. So there are barricades on your board that are printed on there. You cannot build over those barricades. So it might be a mountainous area, or it might be a cow. Yeah, it could be a pasture with a cow in it. It could be that there's a mine entrance. Now, any of the objects that are on just the plain board, you can cover, and you will get those objects, or else get rid of those in the case of horseshoes, because horseshoes are negative victory points if they're still exposed. So you want to try to cover as many of those up as you can during the course of the game. There's also town outlines already printed on your board that is where they want to build cities.
Yeah, and so it's a much darker blue versus the off-white color of the other squares.
So if you can manage to cover every square of those, they associate with the border that has the names of these cities on signs, and it tells you how many victory points they're worth. In addition, the scoreboard has 4 years, they call them, and there's multiple spaces, rounds per year. If you manage to complete a city during the very first year, you're going to get a bonus on top of the value of this score of 8 points, and it goes down each year.
Right.
You're going to get less points until the final year where you don't get any bonus points. So you get the bonus points for the city still, but you won't get the bonus points from the scoreboard. So you would position this somewhere touching your existing board, and you're going to then, having more cows. Now, if I have a region of cows that's not already occupying one of my cowboy boots, I could place a cowboy boot in that region, and I get bonus points for having as many cows as I can in that region.
You have to have at least 3.
You have to have at least 3. There's the max, I believe, is 7 or 8 cows, and then after that, it doesn't matter how many cows you have. But it may have for the bonus cards that you have, which I had one that was relevant for that. And also, some of the pink buildings have in-game scoring that makes it relevant as well.
And the first person to do it gets a little bit of a bonus versus anybody afterwards.
Yeah, as far as, when you claim the cows, you get the victory points no matter what, but there's, some of them will give you additional tiles for your streets or give you bullets or what have you. Now, with the bandits, like I gained a bandit, you want to line the bandits up with any sheriffs you can get, because whenever you manage to get a bullet the sheriffs will automatically fire at any bandits that are in a straight path as long as it's not blocked.
Right, and just about everything blocks it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can play a street or a grassy area, but if it's got a cow in it, they don't duck. So you will be shooting milk at the bandit.
You would think that you could shoot over a cow, though. I mean, it's not like they're super tall. But anyway, you can.
These are really big cows.
Really big.
Yeah, they won't be quite as satisfied if you shoot them. You'll have a holy cow. But yeah, any kind of buildings you can't shoot through. So basically you want to have a clear line of sight between your sheriff and any bandits. So you want to position them such. And every one of the bandits you manage to take out, you get 2 points for at a minimum at the end of the game. Although there's buildings and bonus cards that will also adjust for that. So you want to make sure whatever your scoring options are, you will maximize the ones that are going to be the most benefit to you, because you can't do everything in this game. There's not enough turns, and tiles are going to be a rare commodity, because you'll get a tile, but it won't be the size or the shape you need it to be.
And there's a decent amount of turns, but the game's very quick.
Yeah, it goes very fast. Then you also have poker cards that you're collecting. So they have 4 different colors, red, blue, green, and yellow. And they're all represented by aces. So there's there's many tiles in the board that have aces on them of various colors. So if you collect those and you can get them on your board, then you get bonus points, 6 for having 3 different ones, 12 for having all 4 different colors. Now you also can get points for having the same color, and if you get 3 of the same or 4, you get 12 for having the same. So either different ones or same ones.
And you can do it multiple times. You just got to remember, if you got 4 aces, you can't do 3 aces and use one of the other 4 a second time.
Yeah.
It has to be distinct sets.
So, and then the other thing is there's one building that lets you take an actual physical card of a color, and you can use that to fill in a hole where you might not have had a color on your board. So there's a lot of different ways to score. Now, there are also little red buildings that you can take, and if you manage to surround that building for all the different sides except for diagonals, you don't need to worry about the diagonals. But if you manage to surround it completely for any of the sides, which wouldn't count any barriers or borders on your board, then you get whatever the perk is for that red tile. So in one case, it's 10 victory points when you complete it, which is a nice chunk of change. And then there's also some that give you kind of an ongoing benefit, and then some of them give you immediate perks when you first get them. So lots of different varieties of types of buildings that get. And of course, you have to have streets and the pastures, as we talked about earlier. You play for 4 years, and
there's one other element too. So you got your mine carts. You get gold at the beginning of each turn, each year. So there's 4 years, as Randy mentioned. But if you can cover a pickaxe on your board, it allows you to go up on this little sideboard that you have, which is your mine cart. And the higher you go up on that, the more gold you get at the beginning of the year. But more importantly, at the end of the game, you can get up to 15 victory points.
Yeah, which I managed to cap that out. Also, at the end of every year, you have basically a shootout, if you will. You compare how many bandits you still have on your board to everybody else's board. Whoever has the fewest wins, and they get victory points.
Right.
And whoever has the least or the most bandits gets a penalty of that same amount, and it grows as you play each round. So the first round is not so bad. You lose or gain 2, but at the end, you lose or gain 5.
Yeah, and in a tight game, that would make a difference. But with the game that we played against Randy, it wouldn't have made a difference at all. I mean, he won handily. So I think that I focused on that too much. And so maybe if I didn't focus on that, I might have eked out a few more points doing other things.
Yeah, well, I mean, last game, that's how I got most of my points the first time we played, because I had, actually Miranda's card was one of them I had where you got points for having as many tombstones as you could get, taking out the bandits, and then I had another one that went with it about having the fewest bandits that were still alive on my board. So the two kind of went hand in hand, so I got lots of points that way. This time, mine were more disparate. I had one that was for covering all the icons on the board, and one that was for having the most cows in regions on the board. And between those two, I managed to score a good chunk of points.
Yeah, you scored a lot of points off that.
So there's lots of ways to score in this game. And that's one of the things I like about this game. When you think about the comparison, the obvious one is Planet Unknown. This definitely has that feel. It doesn't have the rotation, the rotating Lazy Susan like that one does, which is the nicest piece of that game, in my opinion. But this one also, from what we've seen so far, doesn't appear to have the same problems with some of the wonkiness of the rules and things that move backward on the track being problematic, but you score them again or things like that, which, the variable player powers is where I think that one suffers. So I'm hoping that when we get into the variable player powers, we won't see the same problem with this one. I don't think the variable player powers there's not really tracks to move back down on. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Because like on the mine, if it did move down, you're not going to gain anything by moving back up because you don't score the points immediately. It's just in the game. So I don't think there's going to be the potential that you could still see an unbalanced player ability. But
we don't know that.
But we don't know. So at this point, I got to say, I enjoy this game a lot more than I enjoy Planet Unknown. I know I'm probably in the minority. Miranda, I know, loves Planet Unknown. But she loves this game too.
She did. And I like both a lot. So I can't say I like one more than the other. They're both different enough to make them their own game. So I like them both.
Yeah. So as far as scoring this one, given, the fact that I like tile placement games, I like games that are point salady and give you lots of ways to score, which this one does.
In Westerns.
I like Westerns. There's really nothing about this game that I don't like. I like all the combination of how this works. And I'm going to probably give this one an 8.5, which is also what Miranda said that she would have rated it. I think we're dead on, the two of us. We both like this one a lot. What were your thoughts?
I think an 8.5 is a good score as well. The only reason why I could possibly go to 8 is just I just wish that some of the other components was nice as the boards. I wish the player board was just maybe a little bit thicker. I'm just afraid that it could get damaged pretty easily if you don't be careful with it. But I mean, that's minor, so it's not really that big of a deal. So yeah, I think 8.5 is a good score. Yeah,
and I think this is one that is going to get a lot of play here.
I think so too.
Because
it's going to be easy to teach others, and I think I think it's going to fit a lot of people's tastes because it's not hard to learn and it's very interactive and it's just a lot. And we had good table talk amongst us all while we were playing the game, so it's just a good, solid. I would say like the medium weight game.
Yeah, it's we didn't start it like you varmint, yes, you varmint,
which would be even better. Yes. But I think that it's very approachable from multiple age groups and multiple difficulties or aspects of how people approach the board game. So I think it's a good game.
Yeah. So that is our thoughts on Wild Tiled West. So if you've had a chance to play it, let us know what you think. If you haven't had a chance to play it, and
it'll be coming out at the end of August.
You get at the end of August, you can give it a try. But let us know what your favorite Western you have gotten a chance to play is, because we did a lot of Westerns. We haven't covered all the ones we even own yet. We kind of took a hiatus while we played other games because it was like we were running to the point where we were going to have to spend a lot more time learning a lot of the Western games that we hadn't played yet.
Right.
And it was like, well, we got all these other games coming from different Gen Con origins and such, and we just haven't gotten back to them. But we still got several more.
And we got the new Great Western Trail we got to do.
Yeah, we got two new Great Western Trails. Yeah, we got to go through those.
Argentina and the new one.
Yeah. Let us know what you think, and let us know also what was your favorite pickup at Gen Con so far.
Yeah. So I'm still hitting Final Girl, so I'm enjoying that.
That sounds horribly wrong.
No, I'm sorry. Playing Final Girl.
Okay.
That's not a Gen Con release, but I did get that they had a big box bundle, so I was able to get almost all in for everything on Final Girl, so I'm enjoying that a lot. I was able to pick this up. And then I think Miranda was pretty excited for one of hers as well. So we'll be reviewing that one soon.
Yeah. So until next time, make sure you keep on roping in the games and sharing your thoughts on them and wrangling those comments down below.
Yeehaw.
Bye.
Bye.